Hey, this is Chase from ShotScience.com, and welcome to the in-depth jump training tutorial, where we're going to give you the tools to help improve your vertical leap and help you build your own personalized jump training program. Most jump training programs fail to address the basic elements that are vital to maximizing your jumping potential. Now, with my background as a registered clinical exercise physiologist and a certified strength and conditioning coach with a master's degree in human performance, I'll be showing you some of the principles of my jump philosophy and how to improve your vertical leap. The basic principles of my jump training philosophy attempt to build a solid foundation of athletic movement that translates to basketball-specific performance. Now, we're going to attack your jump training on 4 different fronts to really help you maximize your jumping potential. It'll take a lot of work, but get ready, we're going to help you fly. The ShotScience jump training program are based on 4 pillars to help you improve your vertical leap. And those are mobility, stability, strength, and power. Now, the first 3 of those are the foundation of our vertical leap program, which are mobility, or improving our flexibility and range of motion of the joints, stability, being able to be nice and stable through our joints so we don't lose any of that power we produce, and strength, which is our basic muscle coordination and muscle activation. Now, power is the final training realm where we attempt to combine the first 3 foundational pillars into game application. Now, it might seem like you'd want to go straight to the power training, but by skipping those foundational elements, you'll limit your results. Jumping is a complex coordination of movement, and power is only the application of the mobility, stability, and strength that you'll focus on when developing those foundational ideals. All right, pillar number 1 is mobility, which is essentially improving our flexibility or the range of motion through our joints. Now, this is really important because it helps us optimize the force we can create with our muscle fibers. If we're very tight through our muscles, then we don't use the whole muscle to create force, which is a big problem in limiting our vertical leap. Now, one of the important things to understand about improving your vertical leap and how we produce force when we jump is to understand the stretch reflex. The stretch reflex is a response to that initial downward movement we have when we go to jump. So you notice when you jump, you bend your knees first in order to get up in the air. This stretch reflex is much like a spring. So you want to stretch your muscles out first in order to recoil them like a spring and have them pop you up in the air. So flexible muscles help us with that stretch reflex, much more than tight muscles that won't allow us to go further down into that downward movement. Now, having nice flexible muscles is really important to help us get high up into the air, because the more we can stretch, the more those muscles are allowed to recoil and produce that force that we need to get up into the air. And most jump training programs don't focus on this aspect of improving your vertical leap, and it's one of the most essential things to really helping you get off the ground and quickly. Having more flexibility in the muscles will really allow us to use the entire muscle as opposed to just part of the muscle. When you're very tight, your muscles are constricted, and you have areas throughout the muscle that are in a constant contraction. And when they're in that constant contraction, we can't use them to stretch and recoil to create that force to jump. Now, it's essential to use the whole muscle because we want to optimize our jumping ability and not use only part of our muscle. So this is why this is such a key element to improving our vertical leap, because we want to optimize all of the muscle fibers in the muscles that we use to jump. Now, one of the best ways to improve our flexibility is by doing dynamic flexibility exercises. And these are important because dynamic flexibility exercises improve the blood flow to the muscle, which causes them to warm up. A good analogy for this is the rubber band analogy. A cold rubber band is not going to stretch very much, and it's also very likely to snap, which is like an injury in a person. Now, if that rubber band is warm, it's going to be nice and flexible and easy to stretch, which is just like your muscle. Now, the best way to help improve your flexibility is by doing dynamic stretching. Now, dynamic stretching is going to help move the muscle through a stretching exercise so that it'll warm up as you stretch. Static stretching has kind of been the typical stretching regimen for athletes over the years. It's actually very ineffective when you're not warmed up properly. So dynamic stretching is a great warm-up to help you get ready to play a game, practice, or even train. The first exercise of the dynamic stretching package is what I like to call lunge inside elbow. To perform the lunge inside elbow, first take your left foot and reach out forward. Now your right hand should be the plant hand. Take your left elbow and place it to our instep. Now this is going to help stretch the inside of that left leg. Once you have that position, hold it for just a second, then take your left hand to the outside of that left leg and try to straighten both legs while lifting your left toe. This will really help you stretch your hamstrings in a dynamic fashion. Now from that position, bring your left toe back to the ground and stand back up straight with your legs in the same position. Now from that position, lean to the left and try to push your right hip forward to stretch that hip flexor. Now once you've done that, you can switch sides, get the left side, and then go back through it right and left to continue to work on that dynamic flexibility of the inside of your leg, your hamstrings, and your hip flexors. All right, the second element of the dynamic stretching package is what I like to call the knee hug. Now what we're going to do here is as we're walking, we're going to plant our right foot as our base foot. We're going to take our left knee and hug it up to our chest and try to bring it to our opposite shoulder. Now we want to make sure we're nice and straight through the back, we're not hunched over, and we want to be faced straight forward with that knee across our body to our opposite shoulder. Now once we have that position, we can switch sides and then work on the right side and go back and forth until we get good stretching through the back of our hips. Now the third element of the dynamic stretching package is what I like to call quad walk. And what this is the same as a static quad stretch, which you've probably done before by grabbing that foot behind us and stretching our quad out, except for we're going to make it dynamic and walk with it. So you're going to walk and grab your left foot while pulling that leg backwards and then switch to the right side and continue to go back and forth until we're warmed up through the quads. The last element of the dynamic stretching package is what I like to call over-under. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to act like we're going over a fence and then under a fence. So start by lifting that left leg up and then the right leg going over a fence, and then try to go back underneath the same fence. This is going to help us stretch some of the muscles on the inside of our legs, some of our groin muscles, as well as some of our hip mobility. Now while we're going through this exercise, we want to make sure again that our back is nice and straight in that neutral position and that we're not hunched over. Now using these 4 exercises as our dynamic warm-up package should really help you improve the flexibility of our lower body, as well as improve the blood flow to help you warm up for a training session or for any basketball game or practice. So get out there and try these flexibility exercises. They should really help you improve your mobility and help you improve your vertical leap by enhancing that flexibility. Now another great way to work on our flexibility is by using a foam roller. And foam rollers are great to help release the muscle adhesions that are causing some of the constriction in the muscles. Now how we use this is we actually use the foam roller to apply pressures to tight areas of the muscle, and with that pressure it allows the muscles to relax and release and cause them to be more flexible. Now there's 3 key areas that we need to focus on when doing foam rolling. One of the first key areas is the IT band, which runs from the hip down to the side of the knee. So to foam roll the IT band, what you want to do is you want to lay sideways on the foam roll with your hips perfectly stacked. Use your right arm as your base arm and come down to your forearm to help you stabilize. Take your left leg and cross it over your body, and you're going to roll up and down the side of that leg. Now you should feel a couple points throughout that range that are very painful, and what you want to do is you want to hold on those points and use that pressure to help release the muscle. Once you have that point held for about 30 seconds, you can start to slowly roll back and forth over that point for another 30 seconds to really help release that contraction. Now the second area that you want to focus on when doing foam rolling is the quads. So you move from the IT band, which is the side of the leg, you want to get just a slight shift forward where you take that top hip and rotate it forward so that you're moving more of the top of the leg as opposed to the side of the leg. And you want to do the same sequencing as you did on the IT band, where you look for those painful spots, hold it for 30 seconds, and then slowly work back and forth over the spot for another 30 seconds. Now the last area you want to hit on is your calves. And the calves are really important to foam roll because they get very tight throughout everyday life. And there's 4 essential areas that you want to work on with the calves. You want to work on the top inside of the calf, the top outside of the calf, dead center in the top of the calf, as well as lower towards the Achilles tendon in the heel. Now these key areas are going to be really important to help get full function of our gastrocnemius, which is one of our main calf muscles, as well as the soleus, which is a muscle that's much lower in the leg, that are both important for jumping. Now you can essentially foam roll any muscle in your body, and we'll continue to put out new videos to show you different ways to help release some of the other muscles in your body that are essential for creating a better jumping pattern. Pillar number 2 is stability. And what we really want to focus on when we're talking about stability is joint stability. And the most important joint that we can focus on is the hips. The hips are crucial to being able to stabilize our entire lower body. And stability is important because it really helps us maximize our movement efficiency. And movement efficiency is important because we want to use every ounce of force that we're able to create through our muscles. So if we don't have proper movement efficiency, we lose a lot of that force that we produce in our muscles by causing them to be very mobile and very strong through our strength section. Now most jump training programs focus on stability at the knee, when in fact the hips control the majority of the stability at the knee. The knee only moves in one plane, which is forward and back. It's not a multi-pivoting joint like the hips are. And the hips really control the stability at the knee by being much more stable. So if we're able to stabilize through the hip joints, the knees should inherently be stable without really having to focus on improving their stability. Now in order to be stable through the hips, we have to really learn to train and be stable through our core muscles. Now what you typically think of when you think core muscles, you think of abdominal muscles. But we need to redefine the term core. Core doesn't mean just abdominal muscles. There's lots of muscles that should fall under the category of core muscles, which stretch from below our hips all the way up into our shoulders. Now the stability training program is really focused on developing these core muscles. And it's essential to do these exercises to really help you build a strong core and be very stable through your jumping pattern. The first exercise in our stability package is the side lying leg circles. Now what you want to do is you want to lay down on your left side and kind of brace your head with that left arm. You want to bend your left knee up and get your hips perfectly stacked. Now with that right leg, you want to straighten it out, lock the knee out, and point your toe just slightly down, and you're going to do small circles forward. Once you get about 15 of those small circles forward, you want to stop and go backwards without taking a break. After 15 of the backward circles, go straight up and down and really focus on that toe pointing down and leading with the heel. You should start to feel some of this work kind of in the top part of your leg, which is your gluteus medius muscle. Now a lot of these exercises that we're going to be doing in this stability package are going to focus on strengthening this gluteus medius muscle because it's so important for hip stability. Now the second exercise in the stability package will also focus on the gluteus medius. And this exercise is called the side hip raise. What you're going to do is you're going to find a slightly elevated step. You're going to put your left foot on that step with your right foot slightly lower than the step so that your hips are tilted downward. Both knees should be straight at this point. Now once you get into that position, you're going to take your right hip and you're going to raise it higher than your left hip by engaging that left hip and really squeezing that left glute muscle. You want to make sure you switch and do both sides to really work on strengthening that gluteus medius and stabilizing the hip. Now the third exercise of the stability package is the single leg squat. And what we're going to do with the single leg squat is we're going to balance on one foot and work on squatting down like we're sitting down into a chair. Some of the key elements to really focus on is don't let that knee come forward over your toe, and also make sure that you're really sitting back into that chair with your weight on your heels. Now we don't want to go down very far on this squat. We want to go just a little ways so that we can focus on the stability and make sure that our knee is not wanting to pull in. One of the key tendencies of our knee pulling in is that we have a tight IT band. So what you can do is go back and do some foam rolling to really help release that IT band, which will get you much more stable without that knee wanting to pull in. Now once we've mastered the single leg squat, we can make that exercise slightly more difficult by putting an unbalanced surface underneath. So possibly a foam pad or maybe a carpeted surface as opposed to hardwood floors or a basketball court. Now the last exercise in the stability package is what I like to call bikers. And these are a great exercise to work on our hip flexors and our lower abdominal muscles. Now to get into the biker exercise, go ahead and come down onto your back on the floor with both your legs bent and really focus on squeezing those stomach muscles and pressing your low back into the ground. Now one leg at a time, you're going to raise those legs up so we make a 90-degree angle at our hips and at our knees. Now it's really important not to bring both knees up at once because it'll put a lot of pressure on your low back. Now once we're in this tabletop position with our knees at 90 degrees, we're going to slowly raise one leg out so that it's straight and then bring it back in and then alternate legs. And while we're doing this exercise, we're going to focus on really squeezing those abdominal muscles and pressing that low back into the ground. Now you should only go out as far as you can keep that low back pressed into the ground. So if your low back starts to come up, you've gone too far with the legs. You want to angle them more up in the air as opposed to out towards the ground. Now these are just 4 basic exercises that you can do to work on your stability. There's lots of other exercises out there that you can do to help strengthen a lot of your core muscles, and we'll be posting more videos as we go on that'll help you with these exercises.